He stood on the corner, clothes torn, hands calloused, stomach empty. To the world, he was invisible, just another black homeless man begging for scraps. When he offered to fix something for food, people didn't show kindness. They laughed. They mocked. To them, he was nothing more than a punchline. But what no one realized was that behind those tired eyes was a man with a past so extraordinary it could silence an entire crowd. How could a racing legend end up here, unrecognized, unwanted, and humiliated? By day, he wandered the streets with a quiet dignity, though few ever noticed. His shoes were worn thin, his jacket barely held together, and his stomach often ached from hunger. Yet he carried with him tools he had salvaged, small reminders of a different life. He would pause near shops or gas stations, offering to fix broken signs, patch a leaky pipe, or repair a motor in exchange for nothing more than a meal. Some brushed him off, others laughed, and most never even looked him in the eye. What they saw was only a homeless black man, another shadow in the city's endless rush. What they missed was the truth. That this man had once been a name shouted in stadiums, a champion on racetracks where speed and skill made him untouchable. But now, all of that glory was invisible. All that remained was a man reduced to begging for dignity, waiting for a moment when the world might see him again. And that moment was closer than anyone could have imagined. The day began like countless others. He tightened the straps on his torn backpack, clutching the rusty wrench he carried everywhere. To him, it was more than a tool. It was survival. He stopped outside a busy cafe, where laughter and the smell of fresh food spilled onto the sidewalk. Hunger clawed at him, and with quiet hope, he stepped forward. "I can fix that loose sign for a meal," he said softly. But instead of kindness, the response was cruel. Heads turned, eyes narrowed, and laughter erupted. To them, it was a joke, a homeless black man daring to bargain for food with his hands. The laughter cut deeper than hunger ever could. Some whispered, some pointed, and a group of young men leaned against their car, mocking every word he spoke. One mimicked his voice, twisting it into a caricature. Another threw a crumpled cup toward his feet. The humiliation burned, but he stood silently, refusing to let anger win. Then, something caught his eye. The car they leaned on wasn't just any car. It was a model he once knew like the back of his hand, one he had raced, tuned, and pushed to its limits. His gaze lingered a second too long, and one of the men sneered. "Don't even think about it. Guys like you don't touch machines like this." More laughter followed, sharp and cruel. But inside, something stirred. Memories of engines roaring, crowds cheering, and finish lines flashing past filled his mind. For a moment, the hunger, the mockery, the cold pavement, none of it existed. He was back on the track, a legend in motion. Yet reality snapped hard when a stranger shoved him aside, muttering about staying in his place. The injustice was relentless. Each attempt to offer help met with ridicule. Each step forward pushed back by prejudice. Society had erased his victories, replacing them with labels: homeless, worthless, invisible. And still, he endured. He walked on, carrying not just his wrench, but the heavy silence of a man no one cared to understand. But the world was about to make a mistake, one that would strip away the veil of mockery and reveal the truth they never expected. The laughter hadn't stopped. A crowd had gathered now, feeding on the humiliation like it was entertainment. Someone revved the engine of the sleek car, mocking him again. "Bet you don't even know what this is," one jeered, pointing at the hood. For a moment, he stayed silent. Then, slowly, he stepped closer. Not with arrogance, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had lived and breathed machines like this his whole life. His eyes scanned the car, catching details no ordinary passerby would notice. He named the engine type, the horsepower, even the modifications done under the hood. The crowd fell into uneasy silence. But it wasn't until the owner challenged him, mocking one last time, that everything changed. They tossed him the keys, laughing as if it were a joke. He slid into the driver's seat, and with a twist of the ignition, the sound roared to life in his hands like an old friend awakening. In that instant, he wasn't a homeless man anymore. He was the legend he once was, the man whose name had been etched on trophies, whose victories had filled headlines. The way he handled the wheel, the way the engine obeyed, it was unmistakable. Whispers spread through the crowd. Someone pulled out their phone, searching his name. Then came the gasp, the recognition. This wasn't just anyone. This was the racing champion who had once dominated the tracks. Shock rippled through the crowd. Faces that had smirked moments before now stared in disbelief. The laughter had died, replaced by guilt and shame that hung heavier than silence. They hadn't just mocked a homeless man. They had mocked greatness, reduced a living legend to nothing because of the color of his skin and the state of his clothes. And in that moment, the world they thought they knew shattered. The crowd stood frozen, their laughter gone, their arrogance silenced. In that moment, the man they had mocked was no longer invisible. They didn't see rags or hunger. They saw the legend he had always been. Phones buzzed with his name, news of his victories, proof of a past they could never erase. Some tried to apologize with nervous smiles, others looked away in shame. But the damage was already done. No recognition, no sudden respect could erase the sting of being treated as less than human. For him, the revelation changed nothing about his hunger or his homelessness. The applause came too late after the ridicule had already cut deep. And yet, what lingered wasn't his pain. It was their guilt. Because they had seen how quickly their mockery turned to awe, how their cruelty exposed the truth about the way society judges by appearances, by skin, by circumstance. This was never just about a racing legend on the streets. It was about how easily we strip people of dignity, how often greatness goes unnoticed simply because it doesn't wear the right clothes. It was a mirror held up to our own prejudices, to the ways we value image over humanity. He walked away that night still carrying his wrench, still searching for his next meal. But those who mocked him carried something far heavier, the knowledge that they had reduced a champion to nothing with their laughter. And that is the weight many of us carry, whether we admit it or not. So the question is not who he once was. The question is, how many more will we overlook, dismiss, or mock before we finally learn to see the human being standing in front of us?